many peptides on longevity or this anti-aging. A lot of them really have to do with inflammation and immune function because we know that is truly at the root of a lot of issues that we have.
Sometimes you have no choice but to do the crazy thing on the table because the other option is death. So you're life or death.
Looking forward to injecting myself with this thing every night because my sleep is so good and I feel so good the next day. I feel like a junkie.
When did burnout become the expectation? When did it become the badge of honor to mean that we made it?
We're so good at reacting to the big problem when it happens, but there are many points at which we probably could intervene.
I start going harder, faster, and I'm like, this is easy. I'm running like I was 20-something years old. This is a miracle.
Two vascular surgeons walk into a bar and come out with a podcast. We are talking everything vascular and not. Welcome to the Life of Flow podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Life of Flow podcast. And today we have Lauren Colletti. Lauren is a nurse practitioner that focuses on functional health and functional medicine. She's the co-founder of Alive and Well here in Austin and the co-founder of Soul Women. So we'll learn from her journey into the world of functional medicine and maybe learn something. Vamos. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Life of Flow. And Lauren, Priya, thank you guys for being here today in this beautiful day in Austin. And today we are going to join the bandwagon, the peptide bandwagon, and we're just going to talk about it. Lauren, I went to a friend of ours, and now you them, Megan and Toño. People know Toño from one of our first episodes, and they started a retreat in Mexico, and they wanted Courtney and I just to give some feedback. So we went, had a great time, checked them out. Alta Vita, I think it's called. And then I had a bunch of tests, and I was thinking about doing peptides, and I just said, Lauren, check out my test. Let me know what to do. And then we started. So I think it's super interesting. And I would love, my brain just immediately started working and thinking about how to apply this to limb salvage, because there's all these things we'll go into. So yeah, tell us who you are, Lauren, and how you got here.
Yeah, so I'm a nurse practitioner. I'm board certified in functional medicine and anti-aging longevity medicine. And I've been in the space for about 15 years. And really, the focus of what I do is trying to uncover why health issues are happening, getting to the source, or oftentimes called the root. And we do a lot of different advanced testing just to gather a lot of information as well as to understand what is going on in your body and kind of what are you hoping to achieve. So that's something we chatted about. Um, and what's really great about functional medicine is that I'm empowering and giving a lot of tools to the patient of what things they can do to optimize their health. But also we get to integrate a lot of these cutting edge therapies that have research to back, but are probably lacking in what we would consider traditional medicines, research based. But there's actually a ton of research done on peptides, specifically the ones that I utilize. And we integrate that in conjunction to help people get an edge, but also to leverage and impact symptoms more acutely, right? So when people start feeling better sooner, they're going to continue a lot of the lifestyle and some of the practices that maybe take a little bit of time to really see the benefit physically. And so that's really where I've loved peptides. Specifically, we talked about with you around sleep. We looked at your labs in a different way. So in functional medicine, there's lab ranges. And I know you guys know about labs and how the ranges change over the years based off of population. 75% of our population have chronic disease. So I don't want to be really compared to the ranges that are created based off of sick people. And so that's a big difference in how we look at labs. So all your labs were normal, right? But your metabolic health, specifically your A1C, that blood sugar average over 3 months was kind of creeping
Yeah, it
up
was
there.
5.1.
No, it was like 5.4 or 5.5.
It was worse.
Sorry, I'm not like,
no,
I'm outing
actually, no,
Lucas.
it was way worse.
Mine is like 5.9, so
Okay,
we
girl,
should
we gotta
chat.
Okay, yeah, you're
But
gonna
we
have an
know, like,
appointment.
there's only 12% of the population that's actually considered metabolically healthy. I'm sure, know the definition of metabolic healthy. It's pretty simple, right? It's a blood pressure. It has to do with LDL as well as cholesterol, waist circumference, things like that. But the reality is there's such a small proportion of our population, and so when we're looking at optimizing and God forbid prevention, right? Like, we wanna look for trends, just like I mean, I have 3 children. It's like intervene early, they talk about in childhood. Like, when we intervene early, we prevent a lot of potential downstream complications, which our medical system is getting better and better at correcting, right, with what you guys both do, but the reality is what would it look like? What would the world be if we could prevent that from ever happening?
And you're so right. We're so good at reacting to the big problem when it happens, but there are many, many points at which we probably could intervene.
Mhm.
And, I wish I knew more about how to empower people to take control of their health. I mean, even after you have an event, you can prevent it from happening again.
Absolutely.
And we have good medications, but there's so much in the space of, making changes in your own life and using these adjunctive therapies that I don't think we really talk about. And when you say peptides, I'm like, wait, I did not learn anything about that. So please tell me a little
Yeah.
bit more.
So peptides are just small sequences of amino acids, anywhere from like 6 to 20 to I think 40 and above actually is a protein. So they're very small amino acid chains that just they just activate a specific pathway. And so many of the peptides that we use, one of the peptides, I mean, insulin is a peptide, for instance, but GLP-1s is one that is pretty commonly known right now. And that it just agonizes our increases production of GLP-1 in our system, which is already produced. So peptides just signal on a specific pathway. Um, they focus on a lot on inflammation, immune health, like repair, recovery, regeneration. And then there's definitely many peptides on kind of longevity or this anti-aging. But a lot of them really have to do with inflammation and immune function because we know, again, that that is truly at the root of a lot of disease and issues that we have.
I think all disease is based on those inflammatory changes that happen in the body over a lifetime. And to take it even a step further back, which I'm sure you do with your patients or your clients, I believe that, whenever we have any kind of disharmony in the body, whether that's energetic, something happening in your life, anything that you're exposed to, those things gradually create shifts over a lifetime. And so it kind of empowers you to realize, like,
Mhm.
I can make a change at the very root cause and then prevent all these downstream effects from happening.
Totally, and patients come to us because they don't want to, "My doctor put me on this medicine, and I don't wanna be on this medicine. I wanna reverse it. I wanna get off of it. How do I do that?" And the reality is we're not taught how to get people off meds. We're not taught about that, right? But if we understand physiology and if we understand a lot of, health and there's so much to energetics and nervous system that we are learning, it's so critical to health, but it's it's truly people are wanting the information. Like, and the information is becoming more and more accessible. So as clinicians, we get to catch up because we do have an expertise in how to apply, how to assess. We may not need to have all the knowledge anymore because let's be real, AI and the technology is having the knowledge for us, but we cannot discount the skill that we learn through clinical residency training and experience, right?
Yeah.
Like, truly, how do we get a person who is on Medicaid, who has no how do we help them get better given the environment that they're in? And every person is unique to that. And so, I mean, that's what I love about what we do, but it's true that it's a gathering of the pieces and integrating it. And
Yeah.
there's just a level of
One of the things I hope people take away from this episode is curiosity because it became like this cascade. So, Tonyo and Megan were so graceful and invited us. And then that comes, so my Hemo A1C was 5.4,
something like that.
something
It
like
was
that.
cutting to the
It was
edge.
cutting to the edge. My homocysteine levels
Was high.
were like 14 or something. My ferritin level was very high. Um, and I was exercising and I was buying food at the farmer's market. So I thought it was good. And then that lit a fire in me. And then somehow I heard about a glucose monitor that Abbott just out with for functional medicine. lingo.
Lingo, okay.
Lingo. So then I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna get this thing. I stuck it in my arm for 2 weeks, and then at the same time I started doing peptides. Then we'll go into what you prescribed me. Um, and I fed all my labs into ChatGPT and had to do like a deep search into homocysteine, and ferritin, and all look at all the studies and do like an analysis of all the studies and give me recommendations. And I haven't, it hasn't been more than 2 months. So I want to retest at 2 months. But the thing is, like, we are so empowered to, and it's gonna take a while to get all this downstream to our patients, but it already exists. You can already do it if you just have a little curiosity. So, anyways, how do you see this? How do you see this like going forward? Because it's a completely new way of accessing health, not medicine, but health.
Yeah, so, there's function, there's superpower, there's a lot of these they're giving direct to consumer labs where people can get really advanced testing, and I think it's amazing. I think it's increasing access, but what I do know is that people are so overwhelmed with information, and so that is we're in this pendulum swing right now with a lot of technology, with AI and everyone, consumer getting all of the information, but sometimes more isn't better. Right? And we are overwhelming ourselves. We're getting lost in the minutia. Like peptides aren't the first place to start, but Lucas, you exercise, you eat well, you prioritize a lot of foundational things for your health. So when those are pretty well dialed in, that's where a lot of these advanced therapies, because the reality is we live in a world where, we're exposed to a lot of toxins, we have lights, you're on call, like there's things that we can't always impact.
I actually wanted to ask that question. As a physician who works in a very chaotic lifestyle, I think you can relate to that as well. How much of a role does that have in how you see your healthcare clients? It doesn't have to be a physician, it can be a nurse or a tech showing up at 2 a.m. doing cases and being exposed to a lot of stressors, and not to mention, the stressors of the interpersonal dynamics in a workplace that has such a demanding schedule, and it's challenging to be in healthcare. Do you see
Totally.
that affects people's
Oh yeah.
health profiles?
Absolutely. Metabolic health, we know impact of circadian rhythm, inflammation, nervous system. So it's really understanding like this is your field, this is what you love, and how do we minimize risk, right? And really looking at not just the lifestyle factors that you can leverage, right? And then what we can do to offset. And so with someone who has shift working, for instance, that's impacts inflammation, metabolic health, nervous system, right? Because we're not getting regular sleep patterns. That's when we want to leverage through peptides, through different supplementation, supporting really sleep and calming, helping the adrenals, helping the hormones. Because what we call HPA axis, right? That's going to be really stressed when we're waking up and having to perform, not just to be awake, but to perform. Those stress hormones need to be able to be cleared and sort of offset.
I love that you mentioned like regulation, and I didn't know what somatic practices were until I quit my first job, went to yoga teacher training, and there I was like, why didn't somebody tell me about this before? Do you incorporate any of those things into your practice, and can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, so there's ways to track. I think people like data, and so looking at heart rate variability or HRV is a great way. But yeah, nervous system practices, there's vagus nerve stimulators, but just educating people that it's really important to breathe, to take time for yourself, to try to slow down in a world that's continuing to go, 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 right? And that's almost the expectation. Like, when did burnout become the expectation? When did it become like the badge of
A
honor
badge
to
of
mean
honor.
that we
Yeah,
made it,
exactly.
right?
Normalized some really bizarre behaviors, and I
Absolutely.
think half of the messages I get from people in training who are looking for help, it's asking, "Is this normal really normal because I don't feel well?" And it makes me sad that we all live within that ecosystem when we're asking others to get well, but we ourselves are not well.
Do as I say, not as I do, right? It's
Yeah.
like sort of
But it's a whole journey.
it is,
It's a whole,
absolutely.
the work environment and what is normalized and the options, and then your health. and what is normalized, what is expected. Now, all the crazy advances that are coming, all these things, they're all connected. Like if you start doing changes in one aspect of your life, that kind of same mentality is going to drive us changes in other. Yeah, it's everything's the same thing.
And we need contrast. Like, stress is not bad. Stress is actually incredible. It builds resiliency. It's healthy for our cells. It's healthy for our body. It's this idea of never-ending, unrelenting stressors where the body just like, okay, give us a break. Like we need to rest and we need to regenerate and we need to kind of get stronger. And so I think it's this contrast of like how are we pushing ourselves to the edge, right? And getting uncomfortable. Because that's I mean, we want to live in discomfort because that means we're growing. But how are we listening to our body and saying, is this normal? Well, what's normal? It's really how your body's impacted by it and what do you do to improve that. And so nervous system and stress management, but
I
it's
think that
so many
I
different.
think that probably the normal are the peaks, the up,
Yeah.
the you putting yourself in stress and then recovering, and you can literally measure that with an aura ring or a whoop at all these bands. And but I think what's probably unhealthy is just the droning high level of anxiety with numbness
Well, and
and not knowing
ignoring it
and
and
ignoring it and
pushing
exactly.
through, and then you're like I mean, I had that experience. That was my kinda wake up call, like, 10 years ago. I'm like, I was doing all the things, and I was not happy, I was not joyful, I didn't feel healthy or vital, and, like, what are we doing it all for, right? We get this badge of honor, like, we make it, and then we're like, "Well, I don't feel like I made it. I my health is failing, I'm tired, I don't feel the joy and the success that I have." And so it's yeah, it's that awareness piece to like, "Hey, this isn't sustainable long term, but this is why I'm doing it, and this is what I'm gonna do to offset it." Right? And that, I think, is first step.
All right, so let's go into let's go into how you treated me. I'm your patient. I'm your patient, Lauren. Um, slightly elevated hemoglobin A1C, elevated homocysteine, elevated ferritin. Testosterone levels were like six
They were
something.
pretty good, but
Yeah,
not incredible
good within normal. Yeah, and then I would love to talk about, yeah,
testosterone.
what is a normal testosterone level, because there's all these, you see a lot out there that current modern men have decreased sperm counts, have decreased testosterone levels compared to like their grandfathers.
Totally.
So and then my free testosterone was like 14 or something like that.
God, I wish we had your labs, I could look at it, but
But yeah, anyway, I think it was something like that. So
it was
that
it was okay, it wasn't the first place I looked, so given where you were at and what was going on, and knowing kind of you, your
yeah,
health lifestyle,
which I was like not having great sleep and feeling tired and not having a lot of energy. Yeah.
and so I think I discussed CGM, so continuous glucose monitoring. We put you on specific peptide called MOTS-c, I believe, and so do we do MOTS-c?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
did.
that's the
So
mitochondrial peptide, and it works really great for inflammation as well as blood sugar regulation, and a little bit with body composition. So that one is really powerful, and so we started you on that. We also started you on BPC 157, which is incredible for healing, tissue repair, regeneration.
yeah, which I had a horrible plantar fasciitis and it went away completely.
And so that is really great for, again, repair, recovery, regeneration. And then we put you on CJC 1298 ipamorelin, which helps to naturally boost our own growth hormone. So it's not a growth hormone replacement. It's truly just peptides are just agonists. They just help to upregulate pathways that are already, happening in our body, and that are impacted by various different things. So circadian rhythm is what I love the slight impact growth hormone has on our sleep cycle and
Slight,
circadian.
it went from like 60%
Yeah,
to like
you had a really incredible. He had such an
94%.
incredible response. I think you took it for a couple days and you were like, "Lauren, this is amazing." And I said, "Wow, that's amazing," because it's always there's a varying degree of how people respond. And he had an immediate response, which was great.
I feel like until you try it, a lot of
Yes,
people in medicine are very skeptical. Like,
totally.
we're not encouraged to explore outside the box. But then once you're seeking something for yourself and it actually works, you're like, wait, is there something really there? And
The best thing
yeah.
to do to get into this is to do it on yourself. Get your lab work done, try the things out, and
Go to
yeah,
someone
go to
that
someone, get
has experience, like Lauren Colletti at Alive and Well.
But that's the other challenge. It's like, how do you find a credible source in this space? Because there's so much information and
Mhm.
so much noise, and not everyone has a credible and trustworthy background.
Totally. So really, no, because it is a space that's growing. Peptides are like, candy. We have health influencers telling
Yeah.
people how to take
So
peptides. But
how did you get trained?
so I got certified from the Institute of Functional Medicine. So that was my first certification. I did a bunch on hormone therapy. I did different smaller certifications on hormone replacement therapy. And then I got certified in kind of longevity, anti-aging peptides through A4M, which is another really big sort of anti-aging, society. It's very, I mean, accredited, as well as there's incredible physicians and nurse practitioners who teach in that. So that's where you know, I got certified in.
A forum
A4M and IFM,
and
Institute of
IFM.
Functional
So if
Medicine are the 2.
anybody's interested,
Those are great. IFM's been around for a really long time, same with A4M, and those are great. The thing with a lot of these certifications and conferences, I don't know if you get, like, a taste, but you're not getting a lot of applicable protocols to do. So much of it is talking to other people in the space who are doing it, looking at research. So there are more and more. Another new BioAge is actually a pharmacy out in Florida, but they do a lot of different trainings around peptides and different therapies as well. So you really just kind of jump around, and you can get these overarching certifications, which I have, but then you can deep dive in different areas, and then you try it out, right? You know enough about peptides, you know the safety profiles, you know what to look for, how to work up a patient, and then you start implementing it and learning, and that's what I've done over the last several years.
and so okay, so I come in based on your experience and my profile as a patient. What were your expectations for me, and what did you expect the results were going to be? Yeah,
Yeah, so for you, we would probably follow up in about 3 months. You're on the peptides for 2 to 3 months, really. We don't put people on one peptide for more than 3 months at a time. We like to cycle them. And we would repeat labs. I would expect your A1C to be going down. I would just expect your homocysteine to be about 7 or 8. We started you on some B vitamins. So if we know if homocysteine is folate, B12, B6 deficiency, it can be because you don't have enough of that, or you have enough stress and inflammation. The demand is higher. Also, when we see elevated ferritin, very few people have hemochromatosis. It's truly inflammation. So we see high ferritin or high iron saturation, and we think inflammation. You also were cooking on cast iron, so I think you
yeah.
stopped that,
I
which is
stopped
great.
that, and then I stopped eat. I was eating a lot of beef.
And so adding in some glutathione or things to just
Yeah,
kinda support the liver is what we did. So what I would expect in 3 months is to notice improvement in sleep, like better recovery from workouts, better energy, and a reduction, like a normalization of homocysteine and an improvement in A1C. A1C can take a while to go down, but we should see it be going down in 3 months.
yeah. So what I noticed was immediate sleep benefit. Like the first night, my sleep score on the Whoop was like 94%, and it
Dang.
had never been 94%, from like 60s and 70s. So I was having a lot of trouble sleeping. So that was just that was amazing. And then I started like the workout stuff didn't come in right away, but like a week and a half into it, I like to run in the hills here in Austin, and there's one hill that always like kicks my butt. And then I was going up, and I'm like, oh, I feel good. And then I think I could go a little harder. And then I start going harder and like faster, and I'm like, wait, this is easy. And then I go faster, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm running like I was like 20 something years old. And I'm like, this is a miracle. And then it became like I became because you have to inject these.
You do.
Yeah.
They're subcutaneous, they're really
The
small.
subcutaneous. I became it was like my Courtney told me like the aesthetics of this is concerning because you're like in the kitchen and like looking forward to injecting myself with this thing like every night because my sleep is so good and I feel so good the next day. I'm like I feel like a junkie.
Well, is it like a
Yeah.
long-term thing, like, you have to continue this forever, or do you just do it until you get to a certain
We
point?
cycle on and off. So there's so many different peptides are because they're just small amino acid sequences and you can just, take one out and put in another. There's so many different types of peptides. So we don't want to be on any peptide for more than 2 to 3 months because again, there are some risks with peptides. Tumorigenesis, growth hormone will augment, angiogenesis. So we do make sure cancer screenings, things like that. We'll do the gallery we
Yes, I
talked
do
about.
gallery.
Again, this is just being ultra due diligence, but I don't think people realize that you need to cycle. You don't wanna stimulate a receptor forever. It gets especially growth hormone, you kinda wanna pulse it, so we do 5 out of 7 days a week for about 3 months, and then we cycle off, but then we can cycle into something else that's similar. So, it just really depends. I don't tend to have people on consistently for, a year rotating. We tend to, go for a 3-month period, rotate off, try some other ones, and rotate on and off. There's really you can do the gamut. It just depends on what the patient wants, how they're feeling. But yeah, it's
So BPC 157 can have what's the data with cancer? Because I read this, I couldn't find like a human study
there's not a ton of
around it.
human studies on these
Yeah,
peptides yet. They're coming, but it's
yeah.
again,
There are in some, there's like, and we'll talk about it later,
BPC
like,
is the most studied.
yeah, but I couldn't find a human study about cancer, but there are animal studies around it. Um, so I've done the Gallery test for about 3 years. Do you want to explain what the Gallery test is?
Yeah, so the gallery is a blood test, which actually we can get through Quest now. So it's really simple. You go get your blood drawn, and it looks for, I think now close to 80 or 90 cancers in your body. And so it detects active cancer cells. So it's not like a genetic test where we're looking at risk. We're actually able to check. And it's there, the sensitivity specificity is fairly high. But it's to me, it's a reassurance. We also just don't have great cancer screening in general. So that I like patients to get that done annually when they're on the peptides. There's not a whole lot of human studies, but we do know if we're upregulating cell turnover, we have high cancer prevalence in our country that as a clinician, most people, oh, it's low risk, no risk. But again, we're always trying to minimize risk. And so I like to inform patients to understand that. And then we usually do gallery and
And we have additional risk because we deal with fluoroscopy. So, and Gallery, there's tons of, there's not tons, but there's stories about really famous interventional cardiologists getting brain tumors due to always being next to the receptor.
yeah,
I have a
holy
mentor who
moly.
passed from a brain tumor related to radiation. I mean,
Yeah,
it happens more often than people like to talk about it,
yeah.
and so,
So
yeah.
Gallery has, I think, most like glioblastoma, neuroblastoma before they're even able to be detected um, by imaging.
Yeah, because Produvo is another one that I'll have my patients do, and that's a full body MRI. That's again, it's out of pocket. It's about $2,500, so it's not it's the top 0.5%, but that can be a good screen, but again, these are so oftentimes we cannot image early
I
cancer.
think you have to be careful with imaging. You might start finding things that are really not they're
Important.
important, but
Yep.
then lead to other things. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
But
yeah. I think we've all had that unsavory experience of people who have all this information, and you're like, "I have no objective data to do anything to you,
Right.
but you have so much anxiety around these findings, which are very real, but it doesn't you've been living with it forever, right?" And so there are certain things in
So
medicine where
agree.
us doing more is not always the answer.
No, I totally agree. More is not better, and again, just going back to all people are able to get this information and health influencers or people are talking about it. And so people are overwhelming themselves, stressing themselves out unnecessarily through doing some of these testing. So
How do people get access to this type of medicine, this type of care? Like, is there a pathway for people who can't afford this out of pocket, who want to get well, who have done all the things that they can possibly do? Because that's my challenge with, some of the modalities. It's like, yes, like if you have privilege, you can,
Yeah.
go and buy whatever test you want and take whatever you want. And I also think about the flip side of that, how, I have grandmothers on farms in India that lived until they were 102, but in a very different landscape with a very different set of stressors. So
Yeah.
that's a question that I really kind of grapple with.
No, absolutely. Right now, most functional medicine is out of pocket. We are learning that insurance is covering less and less. So there's varying people who charge differently. But the reality is you just need some additional key markers that are not in a standard blood panel, like A1C, vitamin D, like things that insurance will cover, but the clinician needs to order it. And so that is a great starting place. And the thing is about longevity is that we know the key predictor has nothing to do with medicine. It has a lot to do with community, relationship, environment. And that's something that we're kind of scanning over because our environment in the US is very high stress. And so
Well,
that's
I'm gonna push back on it that it's not accessible in this because a blood panel is like $100, like a full blood panel with one of these companies.
oh, function now and superpower, it's
Fun
like incredibly cheap right now.
and exactly, incredibly cheap. And you literally you can get a free version of ChatGPT on your phone, free version of Gemini, free version of Claude, which you can just dump it in, right? And eventually these peptides eventually it will be protocolized. Like it's not that it's going to not give you the need of a physician, a nurse practitioner that knows what they're doing, but if people really want to, they can like be empowered and take control of their lives. So I yeah, and then the more it becomes, I just by experiencing this thing is real. This thing is real. Like I have no doubt that people are going to start studying this. There's going to be amazing clinical trials around this. I'm super curious, and we'll talk about this around wound healing for CLTI. So there's going to be a lot of demand, and the more demand, prices go down.
Oh, 100%. And I
So
mean,
yeah,
pharmaceutical companies are actively working on creating drugs through peptides. That's why peptides are continuing to be banned by the FDA and things. So there's definitely, unfortunately, some ulterior motives in how slow and how high cost they are and less accessible. But um, there's access. It's not that expensive. It's people understanding that that's an option and what they can do about it. So I think it's teaching, but it's I don't know, it's hard to teach, "Oh, go get this lab panel that I can't order and run it through
It
ChatGPT,"
is
right?
hard. It's like, patients are overwhelmed by the healthcare system. I had a patient in the office last week that was like, I went to 5 different doctor's offices and I'm exhausted and everybody's telling me something different. So imagine adding something else that they have to go and figure out. And then just one caveat about the, AI, ChatGPT. I think it's amazing and we get a lot of information, but I don't think we're still quite to the point where I trust its medical judgment.
Yeah.
I play a little game. I feed my EKGs from STEMIs or heart attacks into chat.
it doesn't do well with
And it
EKGs
misses them,
a lot.
and this
Yeah,
is literally reading lines on a paper,
yeah,
and I tell it like, "Hey, actually, this is a heart attack," and then the answer is, "Oh, of course it is, I'm so sorry," but, for me, I'm a discerning physician, and imagine being a patient and having access to this tool and then not realizing like, "Hey, maybe I can't always trust the information you're getting," so I feel like you're very necessary in this world to help people navigate and discern.
Yeah, so I think navigating what I try to do is education, and I think IFM, I think people are just getting education on just foundational health stuff to start with, like food, access to better food, prioritizing sleep, drinking water, drinking filtered water, like basic things. And so it's moving there. I'm just really curious to see this whole world. I have very confidence in my job security, right? But um there is going to be a lot more information in the hands of the people, which is great. It's just I'm curious to see, what how that lands, you know?
yeah. We're gonna have to dance with it.
Yeah.
I think that you know the I think we're gonna have to offer something different, and that something different is that kind of human connection, and really nuance. Like it won't be you won't be able to do a 5-minute visit, a 10-minute visit, because like again, yes, obviously ChatGPT can't, or like Gemini, they can't figure things out now, but this started 3 years ago, literally. So it's a time horizon thing, and it's getting better. It's going at rapid speed, so it's not the same speed. It's going faster. So Yes, right now, ChatGPT can be your doctor. In 5 years, you won't be like the value proposition of 15-minute visit is just not gonna make sense. So we're gonna have to be better and be empowered by all this stuff. Anyways, that's my rant.
And we don't even wanna do 10 or 15-minute visits, like,
Wha-
I want
No, we
to
were just
know about
talking
your
about this
life.
before, like, in the medical system, like, as you know, I'm a nurse practitioner, physicians, like, we obviously go in because we wanna help people, we wanna uncover, we wanna spend time with them and connect, and the system just isn't built to really leverage that, and the reality is human connection is so needed, and people are so isolated yet around people, and the AI isn't making it easier, right? And so what I find so powerful in what I do is I do spend time with patients, like, they buy my time really because I used to do insurance-based functional medicine, and it was killing me. I was seeing, again, 20 to 30, which is much less than probably you see, but that's a lot to spend 30 to 45 minutes with a patient and try to get covered that by insurance. So but people just listening, making eye contact, slowing down, asking questions, validating, like most of the time people they start feeling better immediately and we know it has nothing to do with what I did other than be in their presence and give them hope and empower them, right? And so we lose sight with all this technology and all these numbers on pages and cool things technologies that I love, but like nothing will replace the power of seeing someone and listening and connecting and giving them hope. Like knowing like we've got this is solvable. Like we can get you feeling better.
I love your comment because I go back to ancient traditions of healing where healing is really a transmission. It's like the healer holds a certain frequency and the person who's seeking the healing rises to match that frequency. And that's what creates an energetic shift in the body.
Totally.
And, people in medicine may not acknowledge energy, but it's very real. And I think, when you start looking at it like that, you realize that every second you spend around that patient is so valuable and so important. And we have to be able to hold our own frequency. We have to be well ourselves to be able to show up fully. And, seeing 30 patients in the office and feeling drained because you weren't able to do, the full extent of what you want to do or having to deal with the headaches of everything else, like that is a very unfortunate reality for so many people.
Mhm. Yeah, and I don't have, the simple solution because it really isn't simple. However, I do feel when physicians and getting creative and breaking away from sort of the paradigm, right? Creating a new paradigm. And that I love Lucas, that's so much of what you're doing and speaking into. And it's like you guys have the power. Like we have the power. We create the value. And so the power is we're learning that it isn't. Like the hospital systems, insurance companies. I mean, Emily Potter, Dr. Potter, like with what she did pushing back on United Healthcare on her breast, the D-slip, I forget which surgery it was, but, like, it's being exposed,
And
and
people are using their voices, probably not enough even
yeah,
yet, but the more we do that, the more that there is no option but to see what's in front of you and to change
it's
something.
using fear, right?
Yeah.
And we realize, "Oh, wait, I'm not scared of that, like, we can do this, I'm gonna be okay," right? And the
Yeah, but
more we
it's
speak
an
out.
inevitable. Yeah, I feel very good about it because it's an inevitable force. Like you can't stop ideas. It's impossible to stop ideas. And you can see like I used to go to a clinic up in Marble Falls, and there's a community of doctors there that does a meeting about twice a year, and there's so many concierge, primary care concierge, OBGYNs that are giving great care at a great price and are very happy with the model, and they're just figuring shit out
Yeah,
and making it work. Yeah,
it's this direct primary care, it's incredible, and
yeah,
we actually at Alive and Well, we have insurance that actually works with each person on the health insurance gets assigned a DPC, and they pay for that knowing that that's gonna improve potential outcomes and less use of these more advanced emergent, care situations, which we know are much more expensive. So, I think that there's a huge movement in DPC type model and concierge primary care.
yeah. I just can see like Courtney and I bought like I think like 50 of those glucose monitor patches to just to work because I could just see it's so cool. it's so cool, like, to see your reaction to how your body. And when I'm on when so I'm taking the peptides during the week, 5 days, and then off. When I am on them, my glucose spikes for the same meals I go and check, because you can track them, is less. It's crazy. It's like, and it brings this awareness, and the more awareness, the more curiosity, and the more you're like, okay, I can still eat these things I enjoy and eat more of these things, and I still eat some of this, but
Or go for a walk
go
after your
for a walk.
meal and you realize, "Oh, wow, I
Exactly.
can have that dessert and
Walking
enjoy
was
it."
free
Yeah,
and
And,
crazy
like, it
powerful.
takes 10 minutes to, like,
exactly.
drop your glucose spike so much because we know available sugar gets utilized. So, it just is empowering, and I think there's a lot of disempowerment in the medical system, both from the, like, physician side and the patient. And so, when you're able to give someone a tool that you know will empower them, it empowers you and that kinda drives you to continue it. So, um
But I think we get to experiment on
absolutely.
ourselves
That's
first,
the
because
first place to start.
there's so many doctors that are unhealthy as fuck.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I would say a majority
um,
are.
yeah,
Especially in the hospital because, again, it's such a
the food is
hard
horrible.
place.
Right.
Yeah, it's only carbs. Yeah,
And you
so
think it won't happen to you, but that slow creep into that lifestyle and like, boom,
yeah, and your homocysteine is like
your
nine.
LDL is through the roof one
Yeah,
day. You're a cardiologist and you're like, what happened?
exactly. So I think that, yeah, it's not accessible right now. I think that's a normal pattern in most novel technologies. But I think that if we get curious and try it on ourselves, and see what works, what doesn't, and it's not that it's necessarily going to be peptides or glucose monitors. It's just like we're really curious about new ways of doing things, and technology is just you know accelerating. Then we'll be able to bring that into patients, because I started once I started, then I started looking, man, if my plantar fasciitis is gone, what happens to like a diabetic foot wound? What happens to that? And then I start looking at, oh, what is this thing, GHK copper peptide? And they're like, oh, they're wound healing studies with diabetic foot wounds, and they heal 60% faster just by. I'm like, wait, what? How do I not know this? And now I'm like, okay, how do I, like, what do I need to do when I open my own practice? So to see if I can give this to my patients, and, and make it an adjunct to what I do. It's not either ors, and,
Yeah, and it's learning about it and then integrating in your patients that are, willing and able, right? You're just having an open conversation and informing them, "Hey, these are newer technologies, but they have, really good evidence. These are the risks, these are the benefits. What do you think?" And I don't we again, this idea of the patient has choice, give them the information, say, "Hey, this is an option. I'm gonna leave it up to you. This is why I think it might be a really great option. These are some risks. What do you think?" And there's gonna be a good number who are gonna be like, "Yeah, let's try it." And then you learn and you get more confidence in that treatment, and you're like, "Okay." And you see the safety profiles, you see the research coming. So that's a lot of what I do. It's a lot of the people have come to me and they've tried everything. They've gone to they've had every test so I can feel sure that like it's not all the things that we gotta rule out, right? And then we have conversations of like, hey, these are some therapies that I think could be really great for you based on what I'm seeing and based on what you say you want. And then we do it. But that's where, again, I tried most of the things on myself first, which I love, and that's also what's fun about going to different conferences. Like A4M has 2 annual conferences, they have different certification. I think I showed you about that. So there's ways you can go and get exposure now. There's a lot of, like, advanced cardiology screening and really cool technology around cardiology, and prevention. Because again, still the number 1 killer, right, in our
It is,
society.
and, underrecognized, undertreated, especially in
Totally.
women. We're in Women's Heart Month right now,
Yes.
and, as I was coming here to have this conversation with you, like, what kept popping into my head is we see conditions like spontaneous coronary artery dissection and, people with very little plaque, but very vulnerable plaque, which is related to inflammation, and there are a lot of things that we can't fully explain but we know that they're real and we know that we have to, empower people to listen to their bodies and really, take charge of how they live their lives. And I think some of it you can do all the right things and still end up with,
Yeah.
things that are beyond your control. And so I think it's always fun to learn about other tools that exist. I think, it's just like in medicine, like at some point doing a heart cath was absolutely insane. And look at us now, standard of care. And so I think if we get so closed off, we actually prevent ourselves from making progress.
Totally, and we start just looking like, "Wait, why am I doing this so much?"
Yeah.
Like, "No, this isn't the direction we should be going. How can we do something different?" And then get curious
Well, it's the same
and
numbness.
learn.
It's the same numbness. I don't know in cardiology with coronary artery disease, but there is this pessimism with definitely vascular surgeons where they're like, oh, the patient came, we intervened, they lost a toe, but they'll probably lose the leg. Like that's an expectation.
Our intention affects the trajectory of that patient's life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But
Putting it
see,
out
we
there,
don't learn
Yeah.
that. We don't learn that
Yeah.
like our view will
what
actually
we
shape
think
the
will
future
likely
Exactly.
reality.
happen.
Exactly. Yeah, because you're like, but it's so obvious that that's the point to intervene. That's the point to intervene with something different. Like what we're doing is not working. So, if at that point slapping on a glucose monitor, getting a full set of labs, and then using different modalities and peptides to decrease inflammation, I think there's I think at least there's a 20% improvement in outcomes.
It's
Minimum
it's being a thought
20%.
leader and
Yeah.
also, again, letting the patient know, "Hey, this is what's going on. We lost your toe. It's probable that we could lose a leg, but these are some things that I really feel strongly that might give you a larger percentage of potentially preventing.
Yeah.
What do you think?"
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
mean,
Oh my
seriously.
gosh,
There's
I think
yeah.
we just got to like a really big thing. It's like fix your own rigid beliefs and don't project that outcome onto someone. And that's the way you stay open and curious about other solutions because you believe that there is a solution.
Like, it's all about probable risk, right? And so much of it is risk assessment. And we kinda know no intervention is likely to get us to this, but what about these interventions that are pretty safe, pretty effective? We're still learning about them, but that's innovation, that's being a thought leader, and that's a lot of what we do in functional medicine because 'cause we're thinking outside the box, and there's no reason why you guys can't be doing that too, and then seeing an outcome that is positive or shift and be like, "Wow," and then a colleague saying, "What'd you do?" Because we're curious and we also wanna one up everyone, right? We wanna look there's so much, like, competition. Like, "How did you, get this patient?" But it's
Well,
true, and there's a
yeah,
fun
it,
and
it it depends.
curiosity.
I think at the beginning you got to be brave because at the beginning you'll get attacked and you
But
get
it's
you
also
yeah.
medical legal. Like that's another
It's
No, it's
really
also
true,
big,
it's
big
true.
it's
problem.
also so you have to be I think to there so you were saying that there are people in orthopedics that are using at least BPC
Like regenerative
modified set.
medicine, yeah,
Yeah.
they're using different peptides with, peptides, like I talked about PRP, prolotherapy, to prevent surgical intervention because it actually, is helping the body heal.
But even with surgery, you were mentioning that they're using some peptides for recovery.
Yeah, they'll do a
Yeah.
surgery and then they'll give peptides to or do Prolo PRP to help
Yeah. So there are other,
improve healing.
traditional fields that are combining this with surgery. I think that, there's probably people already with their own office-based labs, doing them salvage that are experimenting with this. I'd be willing to bet on it. And I think the more and more there will be, but those people are brave because they'll be questioned, as they should, I guess, as they should. Science is all about, rigorous questioning and always looking for answers and questioning everything. But, um, but yeah, there's gonna be people like that. There's gonna be people that want to find new solutions and that are brave and that are gonna, you know, dot the i's and cross the t's and make sure that everything's safe, or as safe as it can be, and look for new solutions.
Yeah, it's like until you get sort of that snowball that momentum, right? It's like
Exactly.
those few people who are brave enough
Yeah.
to go first, and then there's enough of those and enough of positive outcomes that people start but it's gonna be those initial people that there's gonna be scrutiny. There'll potentially be legal ramifications because, yeah, malpractice, legal there is definitely navigating, with what is within your scope of practice, right? And so it's just realizing or being brave enough to take that risk
To
knowing
know where things are going. Things are
yeah,
going here. I'm just gonna go first. And you know what? I think cardiologists culturally are way more have open to novel ideas and interventional radiologists than surgeons. So I could
Really,
see
that's interesting.
100%. Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I think you guys are forced to innovate because you don't have the open surgery to fall back on,
yeah.
and then surgeons also can be dicks and give
So
shit
we're
back.
trying to avoid you guys, so we're
Yeah, so you're trying
creative.
to
So we'll do
avoid.
whatever it takes.
Yeah, so do whatever it takes to innovate, and you find new solutions. I mean, constraints leads to innovation.
Well,
So
it's
yeah,
true, and sometimes you have no choice but to do the crazy thing on the table because the other option is death.
yeah,
So you're
exactly.
life or
Yeah,
death, and so
Right.
you're like,
Yeah.
"I'm just gonna do everything I can,"
yeah.
and oftentimes
And
it'll
you're like,
work,
huh, this
and then you're
works.
like, "Oh, I can do that," and
Yeah.
it is a lot of creativity. It's like, yeah, we have all these approved devices, but the way in which you use them, the sequence in which you do things, the decisions that you make, all of that is very much a creative part.
Yeah, I was like talking to a colleague and friend, Mariano Palena. He's Argentinian interventional radiologist that works in Europe. And when we do revascularization, sometimes we go from above and from below. And he was trying to get through this lesion, and he was telling me the story of a really young guy, like 30s or 40s, and couldn't cross from above, and there was nothing to poke below. So he just saw a little artery in the toe. And he's like, and he was with his mentor. They looked at each other, and they just like, okay, boom. And then they did their first one. Just let's try it. And then they described it, and then people saw, and then people started doing it because they saw that it's possible. So yeah, constraints leads to innovation. Things that you think are crazy.
Yeah. No, it's true.
I'm gonna see you in your office. Are
Yes,
you
please
accepting
do.
new patients?
Yeah, so I am the co-founder of a clinic in Austin called Alive and Well. And so we have multiple clinicians and then I see patients through there as well as I started a side business called Soul Women, which helps women navigate kind of midlife with functional medicine. Really mindset accountability. That's not something we talked about, but a lot with nervous system support as well as just
Tell us
sisterhood.
more about Soul Women. You had your first event, or one of your first
Yeah,
events?
so
Yeah.
we started about 9 months ago, really, I've been working, again, with in functional medicine for the last 15 years. I see everyone, but I see primarily women, and so I see the profound impact that functional medicine can have on a woman and then their family and, just everyone. When someone feels their best, right, is feeling more vital, that's gonna impact the community around them. But what I really still saw myself personally, especially in menopause, so I'm in my mid-40s, not in menopause yet, but hormones are changing. And while I have a lot of tools in functional medicine, I was really missing just that mindset, that being around other women because I'm a mom, I'm an entrepreneur, clinician. Like it can feel pretty isolating, even though you're surrounded by a lot of people. And I also want to champion. I'm not really looking to be a victim, a martyr to something that's biologically happening in my body. And so Soul Women is really created to bring all those kind of three pillars together. And so women get functional medicine, so hormone therapy, advanced testing, peptides, all the things that we do in personalized medicine. So it's a bit unique, but as well as really intense coaching. They get every other week, like coaching, mindset, and then we do retreats, which were super fun. It's really based in Austin right now, and we're growing
So if
national.
there's any female vascular surgeons, female
Yes,
cardiologists, female interventional radiologists
Bring
listening,
my friends.
where
yes, but we'll
where can they find you?
well, right now, soulwomen.com is where they're for women, and then aliveandwell.health is where we're at there. So we have a clinic in Austin, Dallas, and Boulder with Alive and Well. Soul, we're sort of national.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This was so interesting. Maybe we do one after we get
Yeah,
like
let's get your labs back.
my labs back, and then you can
See what else we
skull
wanna
through.
put you
Yeah,
on.
exactly. See what else we want to put me on. Experiment on me. All right, Lauren. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
this was
Thanks,
great.
man. It's so good to meet you.